Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're reviewing The Batman. Directed by Matt Reeves and starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Colin Farrell, Paul Dano, John Turturro, Andy Serkis and Jeffrey Wright. In this particular rendition, Batman is now in his second year as the Caped Crusader defending the streets of Gotham. That is until the Riddler shows up and starts leaving him cryptic messages with deadly consequences. Before we go any further though, could you pay a little bit of YouTube rent? It doesn't actually cost anything, just the wiggle of a finger. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really does help me and the channel massively, and we thank you if you do. This really is a detective Batman story like I've never seen before. It's also the most grounded and realistic, and we have had grounded and realistic Batman before. This just seemed to take it to a whole new level. Everything feels like it could have been purchased from the shop down the road. This is the first time I've seen Batman where it kind of felt like it could have been me, like I could be this guy. He's always been a little bit out of reach. He's always been this very rich playboy type of character that I can't always relate to, unfortunately. Here, I totally got to connect with him on that level because he felt so much more human to me here. It very much so feels more like a serial killer detective film than it does any sort of superhero movie I've seen before. This is a weird comparison, but honestly, it kind of reminded me of Spiral meets The Crow. That's kind of what's going on here. You remember Spiral? Imagine if that was done really good and better than what we actually ended up with, and then just kind of like chuck The Crow in it. And that's kind of this movie. And it's as awesome as it sounds. Performances are top notch all round. Everyone is bringing their absolute A game to this. For me, Colin Farrell was the scene stealer. I just couldn't take my eyes off him whenever he was on screen. It's so hard to believe that that is Colin Farrell. It's just like he just disappears in it. I also loved Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. I would love to see this character come back again in a cameo to a sequel or even have her own standalone show or movie. I thought she did a fantastic job. She really brought some originality to it. I thoroughly enjoyed her here. I like that there was a lot of focus on Batman and Jim Gordon's relationship. That often falls to the sidelines in many a Batman movie, but not here. It's really fully explored and explored very nicely. I did buy their chemistry. I did enjoy their back and forth together. And I enjoyed the performance of Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon. Paul Dano as the Riddler, he feels like a whole new threat. I really enjoyed this new understanding of the character. The Riddler's always been a bit of a laughing stock, really. He wears these spandex green outfits that no one's going to take seriously, and he just throws riddles around. It's not the most daunting villain Batman has in his catalogue, to be brutally honest about the bloke. But if we take him how we see him here, then my God, this is one of the most volatile and dangerous of Batman's villains. Matt Reeves really understood how to make the Riddler's mind the enemy here. I thought it was so brilliantly done. And of course, Robert Battenbat as Batman. I thought he was fantastic. I really did enjoy him as the Caped Crusader. I totally bought him in the role. The voice is spot on. The action's really good. Like, it's really filmic fighting. You can tell what he's doing. It's very nicely choreographed. As I mentioned earlier, he always felt accessible. He felt like he was doing things that I personally could do if it came to it, if I put in a bit of hard work and training maybe. But he makes mistakes. There's times where he doesn't really have a get-out plan except to just fucking run. That's how we get out of this, mate. He isn't, he doesn't always have some fancy thing he can speak to on his wrist and the Batmobile's going to come and save him. He's very much just a guy. They very much recognize the man in Batman. I thought it was great. Some people might complain that there isn't a hell of a lot of Bruce Wayne in this. I, for one, didn't really care because I kind of feel like you do get Bruce Wayne in this, but he's just in these small moments where it slips through while he's under the mask. Mostly in his attraction for Catwoman, admittedly, but it is there. It's in other moments. It's just very subtly done. And let's be honest, what more Bruce Wayne do you want? Do you want to know about his parents? Because I personally was really glad that wasn't in here. I don't know. So I've seen that complaint already being chucked around, but I don't get it, if you're asking me. It's a stunning movie as well. The cinematography is so good, so good. The colour palettes are just, oh, they fill you with joy. There is just such a range. It doesn't just stay in this dark, murky pocket. It has a dark and murky pocket, but it absolutely steps out of it at times. You see sunlight, you see sunrises, you see sunsets, you see heavy pouring down rain with beams of headlights pouring through it. It's so beautifully shot. I really did. If that's one aspect of this film that I could easily rewatch it upon again, just taking in some of these glorious shots. Some of you are sitting there thinking, what a wanker. But that's me. Now, I was going to be fair to this film. I was going to try and find flaws if there were any. I don't want to be that guy who just gets blinded and says, oh my God, it's a masterpiece. Everyone must go see it. If it actually isn't. And I did find some flaws. The first one being, it is 3 hours long. Beware, because you feel it. Personally, that second hour was a bit too baggy for my taste. It just started going on a little bit too long. The pace slowed down a bit too much in that second hour, but I will give it this, it never stayed there, it never outstayed its welcome. I feel like the film knew it was starting to stagnate a bit and it very quickly got going. So I don't want to be harsh to the film because it never made me go, oh, can we get going already? I never did that once in this movie, but it very nearly had me asking, are we gonna do something soon? It nearly had me asking that, and as it got me nearly to that point, that's actually when it went and got going. So, do you see what I mean? It's like the film is aware that it slows down, and then it very quickly does pick up to get you back on track again. I don't know if it necessarily needs fixing. I think maybe you could have cut 5 minutes from it and made it just a touch smoother, but I can roll with it. I don't really mind long run times if you can justify it, and this pretty much did justify it, so I will let it slide, mostly. It's the least comic accurate Batman, and again, I don't really mind that. I'm not one of these people who are like, it must be exactly what is in the book. I would like a lot of the things in the book to be there, and they are. They are very recognised and brought to life. Just sometimes in its own way, its own variation, its own way of becoming real. Some things in the comics are a bit too comic-y, don't feel like real life. So if that's the case, they've just made some altercations. And I personally was okay with it. I do wonder if some deeper fans are going to be very pissed off about it though. I do consider myself quite a big Batman fan. It didn't bother me, so I don't know, I'm not exactly the litmus test here, but you know, it'll be interesting to see the feedback on that one. But one thing that really did bug me, and I expected better, was the soundtrack. This is by far one of the weakest Batman soundtracks ever. It's basically like 3 songs. It's Ave Maria, Something in the Way, and then that Batman theme that we've heard in the trailer, which is a remix of Something in the Way. Yeah, it just fell a bit flat, if I'm being honest. It doesn't really offer anything. It doesn't help the mood or the tone. It's just moody music, and yeah, I just think it could have been a lot deeper, a lot more impactful than it is. And I do have to be careful with this one because this is spoiler territory and I don't want to spoil it for anybody. For those of you who have seen it, I think you're going to know what I'm talking about. For those of you who haven't seen it, well, this is just gonna have to be fucking cryptic, innit? Call me the Riddler. There is one small scene right towards the end where, for me, it undercut the whole movie. Just take that scene out and it's immediately so much better for it. This film had done everything in its power to stay and stand on its own 2 feet and do its own thing. And then this one minute scene towards the end just flies directly in the face of everything we've been doing. Just goes against the grain. I didn't like it at all. I don't like that scene. If and, when the Blu-ray comes out, that's going to be one of those scenes where I will just fast forward and pretend it didn't happen. You've done so well to build your own world. Let's not start regressing into the comic book silliness, Your originality is your best feature, honey. Don't lose it. But with that being said, I'm going to give The Batman a 10 out of 10. This is a great introduction to the world and the tone and the setting of Batman in this environment. It puts the pawns on the chessboard and it gives you a real flavour of how this place operates. It's very dark and very edgy. It is doing everything in its power to try and be an 18 rating. It's rated 15, but just bear in mind if you're thinking of taking a younger audience member that this is heavy-handed. There is a lot of strong language, there is a lot of heavy violence, and there is a lot of insinuation of violence. A lot of torturous violence is insinuated. Just bear that in mind before you go and take a 10-year-old with you. But a fully grown adult like myself, I absolutely loved this. I was just hooked from start to finish. I love the performances. I love the world building. I am just so already excited to see what else comes from this world. Yeah, go and see it. That's all I can say. Go and see it. Thank you for watching this review. Please be sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And please be sure to hit the comment section. What did you think of The Batman? Let me know in the comment section below. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you on the next review.